Hello, Mr. Tonkovidov, and welcome to DNVGL's Spotlight on Shipping series. As many of you will know, Igor or Mr. Tonkovidov is the CEO of Sovcomflot, Russia's largest shipping company, and certainly one of the global leaders in maritime transportation. And naturally, decarbonization is, on top of everyone's agenda these days. And would you say that shipping currently is on the right track to achieve the IMO ambitions towards 2050?
On the positive side, we certainly see that the industry in general is following the IMO's lead towards decarbonization, and we welcome that development. Region by region, however, the response does vary and will most likely continue to do so. Nevertheless, as with any big and ambitious change, this transformation is slow. There are also different paths towards meeting IMO's targets, and it takes time and effort to explore these paths. Realistically, meeting the IMO's medium-term targets set for, let's say, 2030 will be a challenge, and meeting 2050 targets will prove even more challenging. We must be clear on something. There are no engineering solutions at the moment or fuels readily available on the market that will allow us to meet the IMO final 2050 targets without compromising on the commercial effectiveness of shipping. For that, I think the industry needs new technologies and new alternative fuels. These solutions have to be commercially viable, technically feasible, and safe.
I think this decade that we're in now is really important that we get more momentum on getting many more ship owners to move on the decarbonization journey. And for you, it must have been also a very big decision 5 years ago to take that step. And what can you say to sort of help other ship owners to come to a similar say decision on for what many think is a very difficult choice?
I'm absolutely convinced that with each year, ship owners' ability to compete with each other will be increasingly determined not only by economic factors, but also by their readiness to adopt advanced technologies and upgrade the technical and engineering aspects of their respective fleets. A critical success factor within the shipping industry increasingly becomes the ability to strategically plan far into future, act in advance to meet both existing and anticipated regulation, and plan for fleet renewal in line with that. This is why we advocate LNG. We align our fleet renewal with IMO's 2050 roadmap. And in order to meet these targets, we had to begin acting today. LNG is the best option for that, at least this is our thinking. It's the cleanest fuel readily available for widespread commercial use, while providing the necessary compliance with the emission targets. Having said that, it's possible that we'll switch from using LNG to using another, even cleaner fuel in the future. We fully acknowledge that LNG is still a fossil fuel, and it's still certainly possible that LNG will prove to be only, let's say, intermediate or interim fuel towards the ultimate goal of the clean shipping agenda. However, we'll never achieve this ambition by sitting around and waiting for the potential zero emission fuel to appear all of a sudden. When or if such a fuel becomes available, we don't know how long it will take for the industry to scale such a technology. with cumulative emissions being critical for the desired climate outcome. I also wish to note that after operating LNG fuel Aframax's crude tankers for more than 2 years now, we see their operational efficiency is somewhat 20% higher than comparable Aframaxes in our fleet in terms of operational efficiency, first of all. This is just one of the economic reasons to invest in the LNG power vessels.
Possibly some people will think that you and I, we are both quite known for speaking very positively about gas as fuel and LNG in particular. And there is a big discussion on the methane slip. And I'm curious to know, I know that you are, you have a very deep technical background as well. And what is your take on the issues around methane slip? And, I have said that I really like to use Voltaire's quote that, we shouldn't make perfect the enemy of good. And I think we can, work with methane slip and reduce it. But what's your take on that, and how do you see that?
The methane slip is not a problem inherent with the natural gas, but it's related to the applied heat style, either auto or diesel. And the amount of the methane slipping depends on the technology of particular design. While diesel cycle practically ensures that no methane escapes unburnt from the combustion chamber, the auto cycles allows for few percent to escape via the exhaust. However, I guess it's the matter of the technologies, and the engine makers are constantly working on this, improving this technology. And in fact, I think it's the matter of time when they're able to reduce the methane slip down to zero. So in short, the major role in reducing the methane slip is being played by engine manufacturers. From our side as ship owner, we make sure to avoid any possibility methane leaks during the bunkering, gas handling, and storage on board. An appropriate level of the crew training is ensured that we have had no methane leaks or discharge over the 2 years of operating our series of green funnel fuel Aframaxes.
That is also what we say experience and I have come to conclude when we talk to the engine manufacturers that this is very much a technological issue that can be, say, greatly improved with the engine technology. We just released, the Maritime forecast to 2050, which really tries to predict, what are the fuels of the future, if you like. And although you are pioneering now on LNG, if you were to think that, approaching 2040 or 2050, what sort of options are you looking at for, say, what comes after LNG, if there's anything that you are looking at?
It's really exciting to see which, if any, of the alternative fuel options currently being discussed will be eventually developed to become an industry choice. Methanol, biofuels, hydrogen, ammonia, and so on. However, so far, we don't see the fundamentals that will allow any of these fuels to really replace LNG in the short or mid-term. These alternatives are currently restricted either to local use with several, let's say, major obstacles to their scaling, such as capex requirements, availability, and storage. The major obstacle to start really, let's say, looking in each or any of these available opportunities is the overall confusion with the legislation, which firstly not harmonized all around the world. Yeah, and what we observe now that the world is prone to develop the regional requirements which are not well talking to each other, thus preventing the shipping industry to have the clear guidance how this carbon agenda is going to be tackled with, how the ship or shipping company is going to be scaled or measured on the matter of the overall exhaust, where it will be, let's say, the technical characteristics of the ship, or where it will be, let's say, accumulated greenhouse production. And there is no single and established answer to that. And this creates certain or otherwise uncertainty in the shipping industry to find the global solution and name what will be, let's say, the fuel of the future.
You know, Igor, I've said that I think that this decade that we are just starting on now is really, you know, a maritime renaissance for the industry, because we are challenged in different ways, and hydrocarbon, reduction is on the agenda, and CO2 reduction naturally. And the fact that we are trying to be innovative and exploring new ways, I really believe that opens up for, you know, a maritime renaissance. And one thing I wanted to ask you is that, you know, sometimes we have been quite traditional in the way that we work together. And I think collaborating and working and tapping into, you know, academia and other sources of ideas is really crucial. And I know that you are doing just that. And if you could, you know, elaborate a little bit on how you connect with certain industry groups or academia or other, say, innovative approaches that you are having.
Based, let's say, on the past experience, for example, the introduction of the LNG as a fuel for large capacity tankers, and this was our experience, and it was an ambitious collaborative effort. Our principal partner in this was Shell, with a vast array of organizations across the industry also contributing their expertise. As big supporters of LNG fueling in our current plans, we promote to develop the alternative fuels, to develop, let's say, the LNG market, especially, let's say, bunkering, which is in the initial stage currently, and we act as partners to the companies that plan to bring this type of the fuel to the market, both in Russia and around the world. For example, we are partnering with the Russian gas major Gazprom and several other institutions to develop national level standards for LNG fuel bunkering currently.
Igor, it's been so interesting to have this conversation with you, and especially to talk about, you know, some of the pioneering spirits and initiatives that you are you know, taking on in Sovcomflot. And I think both of us can really agree to one thing, and that is whatever we do, safety comes first.
You're absolutely right, Knut. This is exactly our philosophy, which underpins everything we plan to do. We invest a lot of efforts in continuously improving the safety culture, both across our company and across the industry. And I am happy to see these values shared largely by the industry in the world.
Igor, thank you very much for joining us on this Spotlight on Shipping series. It's been a great pleasure to have this conversation together with you. And naturally, I wish you all the best going forward, and I look forward to meeting you face to face again in a very short time.
Thank you for the invitation.